Hey everyone. Today's video is just going to be a reflection on what it's been like the past 2 months since I was laid off. So, if you're new here, my name's Emily. And after 11 years with my company, I was laid off in November. It was a huge shock. I definitely was not anticipating it. We had made our plans for next year in terms of work goals and budget and all of that. So, it was not something I was prepared for. But in this weird way, when it happened, I didn't feel like immense despair. And I'm hoping that maybe I can share a little bit about kinda how I've navigated, not only on, like, the emotional side and how to kinda keep yourself feeling good, but also some tips and, like, advice that I've gotten along the way, which has been super helpful for me and so hopefully helpful for everyone else. The first thing I'll say is, like, before I was laid off, I had always heard other people mention, like, "Oh, yeah, the time I was laid off," or "I got laid off and that changed my career trajectory." Like, people always referenced it as if it was this life experience that most people are gonna have, and I used to always think, like, "Oh my gosh, I hope that never happens to me." And now that I've gone through it, I can understand all of the people that reference it as this huge turning point. But before I get into like the exciting opportunity and the cool things that I'm looking forward to, I think it's really important to acknowledge not only the grief, but also just the like lack of identity. And my work defined me for so long. I mean, it was one of my hugest sources of validation. And I think my bipolar disorder diagnosis and hospitalization changed my relationship to work a little bit, but I still was very proud of the work that did, and always wanted to do a good job and definitely feel like I did that. And in those early days after being laid off, you're wondering about all of that. You're questioning all of that. For me personally, I kind of had this like unique role at my company where I was externally facing, but I also did a lot of things internally across multiple departments. And so when I was laid off, it kind of made sense from the department that I was sitting on. Like I could see where, from a budget perspective, they decided to cut this, I guess you could call it like function that I sat on. But in those early days, I was thinking, "Oh, they must have, circulated me as a potential layoff." And all these other departments said that it was fine. They didn't care if I got laid off. And first of all, like that's such a I think it's like in our human nature, right? To assume the worst or like go to this negative or make it about like you and your performance. When in reality, like the true definition of layoffs is company priority shifts and normally financial changes that need to be made. It's not always based on your output or performance or anything like that. It's a larger, higher level decision oftentimes. And so I really tried to detach being let go from all of the work I did at the company because I do feel like it was great stuff and it will still be out there and hopefully help a lot of people. And so I didn't want to like taint my whole journey at the company with the way that it ended, but I want to empathize with the fact that like it feels like total shit when you've been at a company for over 10 years and then your exit conversation is less than 7 minutes. I mean, I was basically read a script, which is pretty standard when you're laid off in corporate America, and I was outlined, like, what my separation agreement was gonna look like, but I wasn't really able to ask any questions, and when I asked, like, "Should I get in touch with our media partner?" Or, like, "What about guests that I've interviewed and we haven't published their episode yet?" And I was just kinda told, like, "You don't need to worry about that, we're gonna take care of it." And so I got off the call where I was being let go, and in less than 10 minutes, I was booted out of everything. So, my work email, all of like everything. So I couldn't even tell. coworkers or colleagues that I had been laid off unless I had their phone number. And in my particular case, I decided that I didn't wanna publicly post that I had been impacted by layoffs until my separation was all, like, finalized. And that meant that I had a couple weeks where I kind of felt like I was in this weird place. Like, I knew the reality that my life had totally changed and I didn't know what was next and all of that, but unless people were, like, my close friends or family, people didn't really know. And I don't know if this is true at all companies or, like, all big companies, but at the company that I worked at, they don't, like, communicate when someone's been laid off. So unless people were on my immediate team, it was like a trickle in the following not only weeks, like, I'm still getting outreach from people who are just finding out now that I got let go, and they work on, like, projects with me or worked on projects with me. So that was a little bit, like, dehumanizing, you know? You've spent all this time at the company, and then you don't even get to tell people that you've been let go, and then they don't even tell people. So, in some cases, I'm sure people internal or external were reaching out to me, and then they're hearing nothing. So, that was weird and a huge ego bruise. But what I learned in the very short term when that happened is, like, I will never not be the kind of person that sends LinkedIn connections when I meet people, and if I am working on something and it's, like, my work product, I'm gonna send myself a copy of it. Like, those are the types of things where I don't want access to that old stuff because I'm trying to, like, copy it or reuse it, like, I don't want it for malicious purposes. I just want it because it was, like, my work, my original, like, unique thoughts on some stuff, you know? So, those are little things I learned, which is, like, I put way too much stuff in my work life, like, even my calendar. Everything in my life was on my work calendar. And so, now I have to think about, like, the layers of how you wanna own that stuff on your own domain or somewhere else. So that was weird, but good, like, learning for me and for anyone else is always try to own your own network. And then the other thing that was, like, really challenging for me was this weird reality that what did take up so much of my time and my space was kind of like a constructed reality, if that makes any sense. Like, yes, my job had output in terms of like a podcast and all the work I did exists. But in a sense, like, it was its own created project, but, like, so much of how my time was spent, and it's really not mine. Like, it's the work product of the company that I worked for. And so that just, I think, will forever change my relationship with work on a deeper level. Like, if I do get another full-time job somewhere, my own relationship to that, I think, will always be different because of the fact that I realized it is a contractual arrangement, right? I have an uncle who taught me that, like, years ago. He said, "No matter how much you like your job, no matter how much you like the work that you do, if you work for someone else, your employment is a contractual agreement. They're paying you to do something, and they're not paying you to do more. And oftentimes, if you're doing more, you're not getting paid more." So he always kind of taught me, like, think of it that way and don't give too much, right? Like, you are just an employee to these people. And I think getting laid off from any company makes you, like, feel that instead of think that. So for me, I've kind of taken that to be like a positive, you know? I'm not necessarily like, looking to find another company that's gonna make me feel like it, like, takes all of my time and energy and effort. And let me just pause and say, like, I realize my situation has some privilege in it, like, having any sort of severance is obviously helpful and not everyone's case, but I also have a partner who has a full-time job, so, like, when my healthcare benefits run out, ironically, I'm getting married in 2 weeks, and so all of those, like, things that are in the background are allowing me to not be as panicked. But I think something else that really helped me, like, in that first week or in those first few weeks was being open to this idea that I can make money a lot of ways and I can bring value to the world in a lot of ways. And I don't think I used to think that way. Like, once I had my corporate job and I had my salary, I probably wouldn't have left that opportunity unless it was for the same or more money on something I was excited about. And now I'm looking at that and like, I'm not necessarily pursuing a full-time salaried role right now, like, that's not my number 1 priority, and I know that comes from a place of privilege, so I wanna say that, but I also think anyone who's been laid off can use that time to ask themselves, like, "How do I want to spend my time?" So I'll give you just 2 examples of what has happened in my life. I've volunteered for the Ronald McDonald Charity in Southeast Wisconsin. They have a family room on Rogers Behavioral Health Mental Health Campus in Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. It's Rogers' like main headquarters. And I was an inpatient in Rogers 7 years ago. And when this family room by the Ronald McDonald Charity opened, I was reached out to by a former friend of mine from growing up and asked if I wanted to volunteer. So I volunteered there for the past 5 years. And the first volunteer shift that I had after I was laid off, I just told the family room manager, this guy, Andrew, I said, I was impacted by a wave of layoffs at work and I'm not looking for like a full-time job or anything like that, but I do have more time and availability, so I would totally be down to be trained if it's helpful to act as a sub, for example, or anything like that. So I just kind of put it out there and it's a nonprofit. So I again wasn't thinking about it from like a this is going to replace my salary or anything like that, but I enjoy my time there. I feel like I already know kind of what's going on and what to do there. Maybe that's an easy opportunity. And sure enough, he was looking for someone to be the family room manager every other Sunday, which is when I normally volunteer. So now instead of volunteering 4 hours every other Sunday, I'm working 8 hours every other Sunday. And again, it's not about the money, but I started doing that, so now I'm in their system. They have a Ronald McDonald House just a couple minutes from where I live, so today I did training to be the front desk employee, and I'm not gonna have a regular schedule there, but I'm gonna work tomorrow and Friday and next week Tuesday, and so it's one of those things where I'm trying to be open to a lot of different ways to spend my time to figure out what I wanna do next, and some of that is maybe volunteering or looking at the types of employment opportunities that maybe you wouldn't have given the time of day before, but maybe it's better for you mentally or emotionally, like, I could totally see myself taking a full-time job with a much smaller salary if it meant that it wasn't really that, like, emotionally exhaustive or that much of a drain on my time, you know? And that's a shift that I'm able to look at as an option because of the fact that I was let go. So, I don't wanna try to, like, quickly move you on from that feeling of, like, despair when you get laid off. I want to, like, validate that that's okay, and I definitely was in a shock, like, "What am I gonna do?" You know? But I think there's a lot of value in yes, we all have bills and we need to make money to some extent, but how can you take the opportunity to figure out what your next move is? And maybe money is the number one motivator, and you're just looking for like what opportunities pay the most, and you're willing to maybe not have balance or whatever it might be. Or on the opposite end, maybe it isn't a motivation by money, but more how you want to spend your time. And I think that can at least also make you feel fulfilled. Like, I really have been trying to put things on my calendar that can structure my day in a way that makes me feel productive. And at first, when I was let go, that was not the top priority, right? So if you're in that first week or even that second week, you might just be vegging on the couch, going on long walks, having your friends and family take you out to feed you. I get it if you're not, like, in the pursuit of the next thing, and I have a coach who I've worked with for years, and he basically told me a week after I got let go, like, "You're not applying for things on Monday, Emily, like, that's not what we're doing." So, take your time that you need, do your little, like, recharge or disconnect, um, but then try to put things on your schedule that will make you feel like you're moving the ball forward on a variety of things, right? Maybe it's the pursuit of a full-time job. Maybe it's volunteering. Maybe it's finding a part-time job. Like whatever you want to set as your different goals, if you put things on your calendar, at least for me, I found that it helps me keep a little bit of structure to my day. The other advice that I got was I hadn't made a resume in, I mean, years, like 2016 probably was the last time I had a resume. And so I knew if I try to make a new one on my own, it was just going to waste so much time and energy and probably like I was going to be frustrated. So I chose to outsource that. Again, I understand that's like a privilege, but if you need a referral, Your Next Jump is amazing. They were on my old podcast, so I knew them and I reached out and I got their full services where they do your resume. You know, you have to give them information and you share a lot about what types of roles you're looking for, but then they give you a whole resume and they help you update your LinkedIn. And so in those first 2 weeks of being laid off, I got that updated resume. I listed it on job sites and I wanted to basically be ready for full-time roles without applying, if that makes sense. And I'll just give that tip, like, it obviously depends on what kind of roles you're looking for, but for me, that more like mid or upper level marketing roles, things like that, it's not that valuable for me to spend my time just cold applying to jobs. It's a lot better to network with recruiters or if I see a job post for a company to do a little bit of research and see is there someone that used to work at my former company that's now there? Is there someone that went to the same college as me that works there? Even doing a cold outreach to a connection that is at the place is better than just sending in your application. So that's good advice. I think I was told like spend 10 to 15% of your time looking for job postings and applying, but you need to spend a lot more time networking. And maybe that means like talking to people in your network. So that's the other stuff I've been doing is scheduling virtual meetings with people I used to work with, people that, you know, don't work where I used to work anymore, but they've moved on to other things just to see what the company they're at now is like. And I think every time I meet with people, whether it's just a quick like 20 or 30-minute video call or in person, it gives me that like rejuvenation and it makes me feel excited and not so alone. And so that's some advice I have too. You know, you have to put the feelers out there to your network. And maybe it's not like this person is going to have a job opportunity for you, but sometimes just talking to them, telling them what you're looking for or what you're interested in, it can lead to the most random of opportunities. And so, yeah, that's been helping me a lot is just reconnecting with people, posting on LinkedIn or social media, letting people know the stage I'm at. And then the ones that kind of rise to the top or reach out, it's like, I'm not turning down any virtual meetings in terms of what ideas people might have for me, and I think that that's a good idea for anyone as far as especially virtual meetings. You know, someone might reach out and you're kinda like, "Oh, I don't know what this is," but if it just means getting on a video call, that's such a low investment of your time compared to, like, driving, an in-person meeting, all of that, so take the random meeting with the recruiter or whoever and see what the opportunity is, and I've had some duds, don't get me wrong, but even interviewing for things that I didn't think I was gonna take, it's like a good practice for when I do an interview for something I really want, you know? Okay, I've kind of been, like, rambling all over the place. Let me try to summarize a couple of my thoughts. So, being laid off, woo, it's hard. It's an ego burst for sure, but I want you to remember that the true definition of being laid off is that it was an adjustment not based on your in particular sole performance, right? And so you have to try to separate yourself and your worth and your value from your job. And I know that's hard. And so maybe your short term is like finding a way to make money or something of that nature, just so you, if that's you, like if it's really hurting your ego that you're not earning anything, then maybe you're the kind of person that right away gets like a part time job while you pursue something full time. But I think you have to take that like pressure off of yourself in whatever way that looks like for you, right? Maybe changing the types of things you're looking for. Um, but yes, first use the opportunity as a time to ask yourself, like, what do you want to do? Reconnect with people because you never know what's changed for other people or maybe like who they might know, right? It might not even be someone they know through work. Maybe it's a friend of the family or something. So when you're ready and you kind of know what you want to be doing, throw it out there and see who's willing to connect with you and chat with you and try to give yourself some sort of structure or routine. So for me, I mean, I sit on all my mental health foundation, right? So like I get up in the morning right away and I don't hang out in my bed. That's not like a thing that I can do. So I get up, I make my smoothie, we take our AG1, like I'm doing that every morning no matter what. And then I try to like get something off my checklist right in the morning because a lot of times that'll give you the momentum to keep going. Or I try to schedule something. So maybe it's meeting someone for coffee or hopping on a call because then I know I'm going to arrange my morning around that. How long the dogs get to walk, when we walk, etcetera. But the walk happens, right? It might not be a super long one, but it needs to happen because that's how I kind of center myself in the day. And the other thing is having routines where you can look and feel like you accomplished something. And I think that's a really important piece of advice someone else gave me, like track all of the stuff you're doing in the pursuit of what's next. I mean, even yes, things you apply for, but also conversations you have. And maybe if you don't have a specific intention, you're thinking, "Oh, I don't need to track that." But you should because you never know what you might want to come back to. So, make some prioritizations for yourself, get into some healthy habits, but also try to separate your identity and your value from finding the next job, right? I think getting laid off is a really good opportunity to think about the need that we all have to make money and the pursuit of like happiness and balance and mental wellness. So keep that in mind. And I always, always, always suggest talk to someone, which I know sounds like a privileged thing. Like, yes, therapy, for example, is expensive, but there's online groups, there's in-person groups. If you look through organizations like NAMI or Mental Health America, you can oftentimes find other people to talk to who are going through this. And I'm available too. So if you want to leave something in the comments, if you have suggestions for other people going through this hard time or questions for me, go right ahead. You can also reach me, Emily at bipolarboutbalance.com. I'm not in the hot, fast pursuit for another full time role. I'm spending some time focusing on mental health content. I have a show concept that I'm shopping around looking for maybe a partner. And I'm really trying to spend time intentionally right now. So if you work on mental health stuff or you have questions for me, I have a little more free time than normal. So don't hesitate to reach out and give yourself a little bit of a break if you're going through this. It's hard. It's okay to feel sad, but it's also really, really important to know that this isn't the end. And maybe the next chapter is completely different than what you envisioned, but different in a good way, hopefully. So, yeah, that was a ramble and a rant, but to anyone else going through layoffs or just having a hard time with their relationship to work and making money, I hope this was helpful and sending you lots of positive vibes in whatever your current pursuit is for something great.